tonight. All roads lead to the PDP National Convention in Abuja tomorrow as the appeal court in Port Harcourt grants the party right to conduct the exercise. Former national chairman of the PDP, Secondus, vows to appeal court ruling, describes the convention as an act of impunity. The president returns from his trip, calls for extension, rejects the calls for extension of his tenure as endorses increased deployment of technology for the conduct of elections in the country. And President Biden meets with French counterpart Emmanuel Macron in Rome, says US was clumsy over the AUKUS pact that cost France $37 billion in a deal with Australia. Plus, international news from our London studio.
On business news tonight, African Development Bank announces plans to create 25 million new jobs by 2025, says Nigeria has potential to attract global digital commerce and financial services.
On sports tonight, Europe's football governing body UEFA orders partial closure of Union Berlin Stadium over racist behavior of their fans.
And from Abuja, Minister of Defense applauds fight against terrorism in the northeast, says federal government working on procedure of declaring bandits as terrorists.
The coast is now clear for the People's Democratic Party's National Convention, scheduled to begin tomorrow as the Court of Appeal sitting in Port Harcourt, River State, has given it the power to hold the exercise. As follows the dismissal of the application brought before the court by a former national chairman of the PDP, Secondus, to suspend the convention, pending the determination of the suit before the same court in his status in the party. While the counsel to the defendants has applauded the ruling delivered by Justice Gabriel Kolawole, the counsel to Secondus says the appeal continues.
It's been a tough legal battle in the last 2 days, arguing whether or not the People's Democratic Party, PDP, should go ahead with the conduct of its national convention this weekend. The former national chairman of the party, Mr. Secondus, on October the 14th, filed an application at the appeal court in Port Harcourt, River State, as part of the processes in the ongoing appeal, testing the validity of his removal as national chairman of the party. In the extensive hearing on October the 28th, counsel to Mr. Secondus, Mr. Tayo Oyetibo-San, argued that refusing to grant his application to suspend the PDP convention can be likened to pulling off the rug under the feet of the applicant, as his appeal on the legality of his removal from office is pending before the court. But the position was opposed by Mr. Henry Bello, counsel to the first to fifth respondents, who argued that the application to stop the PDP convention by Mr. Secondus is alien to existing appeals before the court, bordering on the leadership and membership status of Secondus. At the end of the day, the panel of 3 justices, led by Justice Gabriel Kolawole, gives credence to the argument of the respondents and grants the PDP the right to conduct its convention.
The court has ordered PDP to go ahead with its national convention unhindered, unfettered, and unstopped.
For Mr. Secondus, the battle is not over.
The court agreed that the application was not an abuse of court process, contrary to what they said. However, the court took the view that because of all the arrangements that the party had made, and also all the expenses that they had incurred, that the injunction will not be accepted. So the court has directed that they can continue, that PDP can continue with the national convention. However, the instruction is the appeal continues, the main appeal continues, and depending on the outcome of the appeal, if the appeal succeeds, then it has the impact on whatever decision that is taken at the National Convention.
Despite having the leave of courts to conduct its national convention, the PDP can only hope that the pending appeal by Secondus does not destroy their effort.
The former national chairman of the PDP, Secondus, has vowed to appeal ruling of the appeal court. In a statement, Mr. Secondus says he respects the position of the court, even though he disagrees with it. He says he's instructed his lawyers to study the ruling with a view to appealing it immediately, as no abuse of the constitution of the party should be allowed to stand. According to him, the issue is about the sanctity of the party's constitution and core democratic principles of justice and rule of law, not only in the PDP, but in the nation's democracy, vowing that no impunity must be condoned. Now, Rivers State Governor Wike has been reacting to the Court of Appeal ruling. While addressing journalists at Government House in Port Harcourt, the governor said the ruling is a sign of the opposition party being prepared for the 2023 elections. He warned that the PDP will not allow any individual or group of persons to frustrate the mission of the party to rescue Nigeria from the administration of the ruling All Progressives Congress.
If you see, the title of our convention is Join Us to Rescue Nigeria. Nigeria is in problem. And we cannot do it alone. We require everybody to work with us collectively and see how this country can be rescued. If there's anybody who is being used or group of people who are being used to derail this movement of rescuing Nigeria from the mess we are in, PDP will not take it lightly. That is to let people know that we are serious about it. This rescue movement, we are serious about it, and nothing will stop us from rescuing this country. The Court of Appeal did not only dismiss the application, the Court of Appeal made further order that PDP should be unrestrained from conducting their convention. Because, you know, in this period we are, somebody could by 2 p.m. go to one court somewhere and get an injunction stopping our convention. So Court of Appeal as if knowing the circumstance, knowing Nigeria and our politicians, that anything could be done. They didn't say we dismiss this application. They went further to say nothing should restrain, nothing should make PDP not to conduct their convention. And it is clear we are very happy.
Riding on the orders of the court, the chairman of the PDP Convention Organizing Committee, Amadu Fintiri, says 3,600 delegates are expected at the gathering on Saturday and on Sunday. According to him, all the offices to be contested for now have consensus candidates except that of the Deputy National Chairman South, Auditor and Youth Leader, but he noted there will still be casting of ballots. On the report of the party's appeal committee, Governor Fintiri says the committee upheld the decisions of the screening committee as none of the aspirants screened out has been reinstated. The Apex Igbo socio-cultural group Ohaneze Ndigbo has described the candidates of the All Progressives Congress in Anambra state election as experienced and qualified. The leadership of the group was speaking in Awka, the state capital, after listening to the manifestos of the APC candidate, Senator Andy Uba.
The Igbo socio-cultural group Ohaneze Ndigbo at one of its meetings. The essence of this gathering, according to the leadership of the group, is to listen to the manifestos of candidates ahead of the governorship election in Anambra State. Senator Andy Uba is meeting the group to highlight his plan for the state. He laments the condition of the Onitsha-Enugu Expressway, promising to consider it among his A-list projects if elected governor of the state.
For hours, since almost 5 hours from Enugu. Even though we don't know, the governor
The Igbo Apex Socio-Cultural Group considers Senator Uba as deserving of their support.
Senator Uba is one of the brightest candidates in Anambra. So, and as you know, this zoning of 18, we have gone to 3 senatorial districts, Anambra North, Anambra Central, and Anambra South. We were emphasizing on the zoning arrangement. It is the turn of the South Senatorial District. Fortunately, Senator Andy Oba, the APC gubernatorial candidate, is from Anambra South Senatorial District.
The national leadership of the group wants every resident of Anambra to come out and vote.
Believing on senatorial basis that governorship should rotate to senatorial, and I'm sure 90% of the parties took that position and zoned the position to South, where Andy belongs. So under the zoning, he is more qualified to contest. As far as I'm concerned, the election is still going on. Nobody has cancelled the election. So we advise people to come out and vote.
Other areas the APC candidate promises to consider are security, youth employment, and investment in women empowerment.
Ahead of the Anambra governorship election, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and the Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, are concerned that insecurity has created voter apathy in the state. According to the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, out of 5,720 polling units in Anambra State, 86 have no single voter, while 894 have only between 1 and 49 voters. Meanwhile, the chairman of IPAC, Mr. Leonard Nzemwa, notes that the political parties are afraid there could be low turnout of voters due to threats on their lives. Our correspondent, Emperor Simon, reports.
An emergency meeting to brief leaders of political parties participating in the Anambra election, the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, is again meeting with them, this time to lay to rest all lingering concerns. First, he assures them of INEC's resolve to go on with the election.
Let me reassure you that the Commission is ready for the Anambra State governorship election next weekend. We have moved all non-sensitive materials for the election to the 21 local government areas of the state. As usual, the Central Bank of Nigeria is handling the delivery of sensitive materials to the state on schedule.
However, he has some concerns, especially as it affects the turnout of voters for the exercise.
Voters were encouraged to seize the opportunity of the continuous voter registration exercise to transfer to the new polling units most convenient for them. Many did not do so. This can be partly attributed to the security situation in the state, which has affected the Commission's pre-election outdoor activities, including voter education and sensitization. Consequently, out of the 5,720 polling units in Anambra State, 86, representing 1.5%, have no voters at all.
He is not the only one concerned. The political parties share his apprehension, especially since the governorship candidate of the Labour Party in the state is still in the den of kidnappers.
The people of Anambra are scared stiff and have been cowed to stay indoors for the greater part of the days in the last few months. For a proper, well-credentialed poll with complements of acceptable electoral best practices to be held in an environment as this is most unlikely. It is acknowledgement of this disincentive which might usher high voter apathy.
A wider stakeholders meeting is expected to hold next week in Awka, the state capital, where INEC will interact with all the candidates, civil society organizations, the media, security agencies, traditional rulers, as well as religious and community leaders. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
In part two, after the break, following reports of a raid on the home of Justice Mary Odili, we'll be speaking with the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Abdulrasheed Bawa, on the situation. Plus, Vice President Professor Yemi Oshibajo meets with national leader of the All Progressives Congress in State House, Abuja. That's in a moment. To join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, live on Channels Television, Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Appeal Court in Port Harcourt grants the PDP right to conduct its national convention in Abuja. Former national chairman of the PDP, Secondus, vows to appeal court ruling as he describes the convention as an act of impunity. The president returns from Saudi Arabia, rejects calls for the extension of his tenure as he endorses increased deployment of technology for the conduct of elections in the country. And President Biden meets with his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron in Rome, says U.S. was clumsy over the AUKUS pact. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has denied it carried out an operation on the home of Justice Mary Odili. Reports of a raid on her home were condemned by the Commission's head of media and publicity, Wilson Owujareng, who noted that none of the Commission's officers carried out any operation on the Justice's home. Earlier today, social media was agog with reports of the Commission's officers who had gone to Justice Odili's home to execute a search warrant as part of investigations into her husband, former Governor of Rivers State, Peter Odili. Joining me now is EFCC Chairman Abdulrasheed Bawa on the News at 10 from his home in Abuja. Mr. Bawa, thank you for joining me tonight on the News at 10.
Thank you very much for having me.
News about the reported raid on the home of Justice Mary Odili has been attributed to the EFCC. What can you tell us about this?
I think they're just mischief makers trying to link anything to the EFCC of this nature. We were never there. None of our operatives, was there. It's not from EFCC. It's not an EFCC thing. And I've called, all the non-security and law enforcement agencies in the country, and they also denied that anybody, has been sent to the house to carry out any such, or arrest.
So in your words and to your mind, that nothing happened at Justice Mary Odili's home today?
Nothing that we are aware of, nothing on the part of EFCC. We have not sent anybody. In fact, it came to my knowledge when a very senior lawyer called the director of legal. We were having a meeting in the evening. By the way, I'm still in the office. And, he just gave the phone to the director of operations that we are also having a meeting together with. And when I came back, because I just stepped out, and they told me that this is what is going on, and we just laughed because we understand that there are a lot of people that are trying to put us at loggerhead with the judiciary. And as you are aware, in the work that we do, judiciary is our biggest partner. And of course, they are just trying to, cause a problem where there is no problem.
Yeah, and just yesterday, the EFCC again warned on the dangers of illicit financial flow to the Nigerian economy. How concerning is this problem?
It is a huge problem when you have an illegitimate funds, finding their way into your economy. It distorts, all economic permutations and planning towards achievement of economic growth of a nation. So it's really alarming, and that is why we are worried about it, and we are working with other stakeholders to ensure that what needs to be done is done to curtail the problem.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bawa, and have a pleasant evening.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
The president has returned to the country from Saudi Arabia, where he attended an investment summit and also used the opportunity to perform some religious rites. And just before his return, the president threw his weight behind the call for increased use of technology in the nation's elections. President Muhammadu Buhari made the tacit endorsement during a meeting with a select group of Nigerians resident in Makkah, Saudi Arabia, where he has concluded his visit. He did say in this statement that he did reject calls for tenure extension. In his words, "I swore by the Holy Quran that I will serve in accordance with the Constitution and leave when my time is up. No tenure extension." He warned against any campaign pushing for an unconstitutional extension in office, restating that he will not accept that. The president says the introduction of the card reader and electronic register was instrumental to his success and God's answer to his prayers in his quest for the presidential seat. Noting that there has been an improvement in the security situation in the northeast and the south-south, the president said his problem is the northwest, where he has ordered tough action to bring back order. I'm going to hand over now to Linda Kigbe in Abuja for more on the news at 10. Hi, Linda. Great to see you.
Hello, Amarachi. Now, talking about bringing back order in the Northwest, the Minister of Defense, Bashir Magashi, says the procedure that would lead to the declaration of bandits as terrorists is being worked out. The minister said this when he led the nation's service chiefs to the theater commander of Operation Hadinkai in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, today. Others in the delegation include the commander of the multinational Joint Task Force, Chief of Defense Staff, the Chief of Army Staff and his naval counterpart, as well as other service commanders. The talk comes on the heels of the attack on the mobile police base in Damboa local government, barely 100 kilometers last night.
There is a lot of progress, and we are happy that the troops are on alert and ready to do the necessary operations that will help us to achieve victory in the theater operation. Some of the things we discussed is how we can conduct the next phase of operation, which I think is highly classified and they are not meant for discussion with the press. And I don't think there's anything more than to say that we have gotten the problems that require urgent solutions and the ones that will require a little bit of time for our next move of the operation. Once the procedure is followed, they may be classified as terrorists. But we are waiting for the procedure to be completed.
The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, and the national leader of the All Progressives Congress, Chief Bola Tinubu, have met in Abuja. The meeting is said to be a private affair, but it comes against the backdrop of reported distance between both leaders of the APC after Chief Tinubu's medical trip to the United Kingdom. The Ebonyi state government has held a citizens' consultation forum for the 2022 budget. The engagement serves as an opportunity to interface with the people to have a closer look at the fiscal estimates for the financial year 2022. Speaking at the Ecumenical Center in Abakaliki, the state capital, Governor Dave Umahi said financial autonomy for local government administration, judiciary and the legislature is now fully operational in Ebonyi State.
Thank you very much. Wonderful. Rachel, thank you.
An interactive session called at the instance of the Ebonyi state government to discuss the state's budget estimates for the financial year 2022.
Move into the other item. Three things together. Thank you.
The Commissioner for Finance takes the stage and explains that the current estimate for the year 2022 is 21% higher than that of the 2021 financial year.
The total budget size of the 2021 budget as approved is 122,852,045,222 naira .49 kobo. The total estimate for 2022 budget is 148,650,658,807 naira .41 kobo. The total budget estimate for 2022 is actually estimated to be 21% higher than the total budget as approved for 2021.
Highlighting the prospects of the 2022 budget, tagged Budget of Latter Rain, Governor Dave Umahi says that the state government needs to consolidate on the modest achievement from the budget of stabilization and consolidation in a recession for the financial year 2021.
We have 10 billion for the development of 65 kilometers of roads across the 13 local government areas. But we have a choice because they tag me that I don't share money. And I don't want to end the administration with that tag. So before you as stakeholders, those who want me to convert this 10 billion to sharing instead of 65 kilometers of road should raise their hands. Should I go ahead to develop this 65 kilometers of road? Those in support say aye.
Other government officials take turns to give account of the outgoing financial year and their expectations in 2022.
Our projection for 2022 budget is a budget of 29 billion 245 million. And we are proposing, our proposal is to complete the ongoing projects and take on new projects.
The government is optimistic that the over 148 billion naira budget estimate will improve the lot of Ebonyi people.
When the News at 10 returns, Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment Adeniyi Adebayo lists measures towards addressing the challenges facing micro, small and medium enterprises in the country. Join us again.
Welcome back to the News at 10. The Benue state government says it was not served the motion ex parte prior to the garnishing of its accounts over a 333 million naira loan that was acquired in 2008. A federal high court in Abuja had last Wednesday issued an interim order freezing all bank accounts belonging to the Benue state government for its inability to repay the loan. The presiding judge, Inyang Ekwo, acted based on an ex parte motion brought before the court by the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria, AMCON, pending the hearing and determination of the substantive suit. However, the State Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Michael Gusa, who spoke to journalists in Makurdi on the issue, said the state government had not been served. He noted that notwithstanding, the state government has commenced the process of vacating the order. Micro, small and medium enterprises and the challenges they face form the major conversation at a special public-private interaction organized by the Lagos Business School. The virtual event was an opportunity for the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Adeniyi Adebayo, to speak on what the ministry is doing to address the challenges with the aim of boosting production and expanding the gains of diversifying the economy. Our business correspondent, Ini John Mekwa, reports.
An evening with the Honorable Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment is one way the Lagos Business School, the faculty of the Pan-Atlantic University, seeks to deepen public-private sector engagements.
Be sure that we are all here. And before we open it, before I announce it,
it's a virtual event with the Minister, Adeniyi Adebayo, setting it off with efforts and work of the ministry so far under his leadership. According to him, the non-oil sector contributed 92.58% to GDP in the second quarter of 2021. Also, industry and trade accounts for 40% of real GDP, indicators of a successful diversification effort. But the ministry set on ways to improve on this to, among other things, support the micro, small and medium enterprises.
MSMEs form the backbone of the private sector and contribute more than 90% of our GDP. We understand that MSMEs face a lot of challenges when they try to scale up their businesses. Thus, we established the MSME policy to drive the growth and competitiveness of MSMEs in the country and the MSMEs Innovation Portal to ensure that MSMEs have wider market access.
A representative of the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Chief Executive of Kachi Company Limited, Mrs. Ketisa, is given the opportunity to share some areas of challenge, and not surprisingly, availability and access to foreign exchange is on the fore.
Yes, the statistics you have thrown out are commendable. However, the reality is that when a business cannot find the raw material to produce, they can't find the foreign exchange to purchase the raw material to manufacture, to produce their products, they lay off workers, they shut down their manufacturing plants.
The minister, however, has reassuring words on the challenge.
We realize that a large portion of foreign exchange that this country has is from the oil and gas sector. And we are doing our best. We are working very hard to try and diversify our economy from earning its foreign exchange from that sector. We are trying to diversify the sector. And I have been in discussions with many manufacturers. We are looking at the various areas, especially areas where we have comparative advantage. For instance, one such area is in the area of cement. And I have been in discussions with manufacturers in that sector to see how they can ramp up their exports of cement.
The meeting also elaborated on challenges and possible solution to export certification and maximizing the AfCFTA with the 1.27 billion market potential it brings. Imi John Mekwa, Channels Television News.
Yes, Teniola Shibawale with more business news.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Amarachi. The African Development Bank says it plans to create 25 million new jobs across the continent by 2025. This comes as the financial institution is set to invest in Nigeria's digital technology and creative spaces in collaboration with other partners to help create sustainable jobs and make Nigeria a global powerhouse in these industries. A statement from the bank released today, the AFDB's president, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, underscored the enormous potential that Nigeria has for attracting global digital commerce and financial services. He also mentioned that the bank was making heavy investments in quality infrastructure to transform the backbone of Africa's technological revolution, adding that Nigeria could be a key player in developing Africa's technological enterprises. The central bank says it's partnering with security agencies to prosecute Ponzi scheme operators in the country. The CBN spokesperson told newsmen that the Apex Bank has also embarked on the sensitization of members of the public on how best to identify and avoid such fraudulent schemes. Recently, the financial markets regulator drew the attention of the public to criminal and unlawful acts by some persons, as well as a phony Twitter handle at eNaira CBDC purported to belong to the CBN. To some company news now, listed telecoms giant MTN Nigeria has released its unaudited financial statement for the third quarter of the year. The latest earnings result shows that the company's revenue grew by 23.62% from the 976 billion naira recorded in the previous quarter to 1.12 trillion naira as of September the 30th. At the same time, its pre-tax profit surged by 51.87% to 321.32 billion naira. After-tax profit as well as earnings per share also soared by more than 52%, while its net assets grew by 4.3%. And now the key indicator of equities performance hits a new level at the Nigerian Stock Exchange as investors react to a string of latest third quarter earnings report. Will Ebonyi tells us more.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. It's a record-breaking win for the equities market as the all-share index advanced by 0.18%, crossing the 42,000 level. The market giants brought on their A-game. This is not surprising with the slew of third-quarter corporate earnings being digested by investors. Today's activity is proof of this as the total value of transactions rose to 13.78 billion naira. That's 3 times more than the value recorded at the close of Thursday's session, while volume of trade surged by more than 50%. The consumer goods sector is still shining bright. Gainers led 30 other gainers, while Regency Alliance Insurance paved the way for the decliners. What a superb close. Let's keep the bull riding high. And that's the Stock Market Report. And Will Ebonyi is back to you.
And that's business news tonight. It's back to Amarachi for the rest of the news at 10.
Thanks, Teniola. Still ahead on the news at 10, U.S. President Joe Biden meets with his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron in Rome. Says U.S. was clumsy over the AUKUS pact that cost France a $37 billion deal with Australia. Stay with us. Welcome back. U.S. President Joe Biden has told France's Emmanuel Macron that Washington was clumsy in its handling of a security pact signed between the UK, U.S. and Australia. The meeting at the French embassy in Rome ahead of the G20 summit was their first in-person opportunity to mend the diplomatic rift caused by the announcement of the pact last month. Simon Pusey has more in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. President Joe Biden has arrived in Europe ahead of next week's key UN climate summit with his signature climate policy yet to pass through the US Congress. His motorcade arrived amid tight security in the Vatican. Swiss guards in their traditional red, yellow and blue uniforms gave the president and his wife Jill an honour salute while the US flag flew from the central balcony. The Bidens then met the pontiff and exchanged gifts with the 84-year-old Pope. The president will next attend the G20 summit of major economies in Rome before heading off to the climate summit in Glasgow. A medical organisation in Sudan has said it is impossible to know the number of people killed and wounded during the public protests against Monday's coup. The Central Committee of Sudanese Doctors said at least 8 had definitely died, but it accused militias of causing bloody incidents in several cities using live bullets against unarmed civilians, including children and the elderly. There are unconfirmed accounts of mass arrests. Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok remains under house arrest. Pro-democracy protesters are calling for a march of millions on Saturday. A Russian court has handed down lengthy prison terms to managers and fire safety chiefs blamed for a leisure centre inferno that killed 60 people. The fire engulfed the top floor of the Winter Cherry Mall in March 2018 in the Siberian city of Kemerovo. The cause was a short circuit in the lighting for a children's play area, and 37 of those killed were children. 8 people were handed jail terms. 3 other criminal cases concerning the fire remain in progress. The outgoing German Chancellor Angela Merkel has arrived in Greece for her last official visit as Chancellor. Merkel met with Greek President Katerina Sakellaropoulou and the Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis. It's a far more welcoming trip than her famous 2012 visit when Merkel was greeted by street riots in Athens. Germany, which was Greece's largest lender at the time, imposed harsh austerity measures, sparking violent protests on the streets. More than 160 former world leaders and global figures have called on Britain and other Western powers to mount an immediate military airlift of surplus COVID vaccinations to less developed countries.
That by December, on current projections, the West will be stockpiling 600 million unused vaccines.
The warning comes in a letter organised by the former UK Prime Minister Gordon Brown that is addressed to the Italian hosts of the G20 summit. They warned that unless action is taken at the G20 summit this weekend, hundreds of thousands of lives might be lost as out-of-date vaccines are wasted. Footage has been released of something called a lava bomb rolling down the volcano in La Palma in the Canary Islands. The rock travelled at speed down the side of the volcano, which has been active since it erupted on September the 19th. A lava bomb is formed when a volcano spews large fragments during an eruption. The volcanic rock, still visibly molten in the middle, is one of many that have been thrown from the crater. Spectacular time-lapse videos show the huge ash cloud the volcano has caused over La Palma. More than 7,000 people have had to evacuate their homes. Pop star Ed Sheeran has released his 4th solo album entitled Equals on Friday while isolating for COVID-19, saying he was going to celebrate with a solo party. The singer, known for his chart-topping hits such as Shape of You, had told fans earlier this week he had tested positive for coronavirus and had cancelled all in-person events to promote his new record. Sheeran, who has named his previous solo albums after mathematical symbols, has said Equals was his favourite record that he had made, with songs about his wife and daughter. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Welcome to Sports News Tonight. Europe's football governing body UEFA has ordered Union Berlin to close part of their stadium for their next European fixture due to racist behavior of their fans during the Europa Conference League match last month. UEFA said the incident took place during Union Berlin's 3-0 group stage win over Israeli club Maccabi Haifa at Olympia Stadium, Berlin on September 30th. In addition to the closure of 2 sectors where fans sit, the governing body also ordered Union Berlin to display a banner with the wording "No to Racism" in their next home UEFA competition game. Manchester United manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer admits that his side need a reaction when they face Tottenham on Saturday in the English Premier League. Solskjaer came under intense criticism after United's shocking 5-0 home defeat by Liverpool on Sunday. Manchester United are 7th in the table, 8 points adrift of Chelsea, and trailing second-place Liverpool by 7 points. They are 1 place and 1 point behind Spurs after 9 games. Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola
result and performance against Liverpool, which we know that wasn't good enough, and that's something that footballers have to deal with. That's why we're in this game, and you've got to look forward to the next game. Make sure you're ready for that game, and when you get to that game, sort it out.
Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola insists club legend Xavi is ready for the Barcelona job as the Catalan Giants look to replace Ronald Koeman. Guardiola managed the club during its most successful spell as Barcelona won the treble in 2009 and another Champions League in 2011, with Xavi alongside Andres Iniesta in one of the best midfield partnerships of all time. Though the 50-year-old believes the Barcelona job will no doubt prove a huge step up, he is, however, convinced that Xavi can handle the pressure. Inter Milan striker Lautaro Martinez has signed a new contract with the Italian Giants, which keeps him at the club until 2026. Martinez was approaching the final 18 months of his contract, but talks for a new deal had reportedly been ongoing for the past several months. The Argentina international admitted that he was close to joining Barcelona in 2020, but the transfer broke down due to financial reasons. That'll be all on sports. Back to you, Amarachi.
Thanks a lot, Chris. And the main news again. The appeal court in Port Harcourt today granted the PDP right to conduct its national convention in Abuja tomorrow and Sunday. But the former national chairman of the party, Secondus, has vowed to appeal the court ruling and described the convention as an act of impunity. Also today, the president returned from his trip to Saudi Arabia. Just before his return, President Buhari met with Nigerians there, where he rejected calls for the extension of his tenure and endorsed the deployment of technology for the conduct of elections in the country. And U.S. President Joe Biden today met with his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron in Rome and said the U.S. was clumsy over the AUKUS Pact, that cost France a $37 billion deal with Australia. That is the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Good night.